Hello everyone, here's another video for our grammar series. It's two punctuation marks. We have the mighty colon and the semicolon. So those two punctuation marks kind of get misused often, so please make sure that you are taking note of how they are being used correctly. So let's start with the colon. So two things to know about this as a definition. It is used only after an independent clause. What an independent clause is, for those that don't remember, is a complete sentence. A sentence that has a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. And you'll see in some of the examples what I mean by that. The second part of the definition is that it introduces a list or an example. And it kind of like is saying, like, here it comes, here's the list, or here's the example that I'm looking for. So here's two examples. First one says, I have three favorite authors, colon, Fitzgerald, Sedaris, and King. And the part that's in blue, right before the colon, that is a independent clause. It's a complete sentence with a subject and a verb and a complete thought. After it, that's the list, the three favorite authors that I have. The second example sentence there says, there was only one hope, colon, we had to find an antidote. So the example that's listed after that is, what's the hope that we had? The hope is to find the antidote. So as you can see, those are the two functions of colons. In the English language, you have the list or you have the example. Pretty short, pretty simple, pretty easy. Now, here are similar sentences, but there is something wrong with them. So the first sentence is, my three favorite authors are, colon, Fitzgerald, Sedaris, and King. Our only hope was, colon, we had to find an antidote. Often when I see this done incorrectly, it's done incorrectly like this. When you have the verb come right before the colon, then it is no longer an independent clause. You cannot just say, my three favorite authors are, and put a period. So that is not a complete sentence. So that is incorrect usage of the colon in that case, because there's not an independent clause in blue. Same thing with the example sentence. Number two, our only hope was is not a complete thought. It is not an independent clause. So you cannot put a comma, or sorry, you cannot put a colon. You have to just reword these sentences to make them so that the part that comes before the colon is an independent clause. And that's pretty much it for the colon. So let's move on to the semicolon. Try to make a little joke here. No one ever laughs. Maybe you're laughing to yourself right now. It says a period and a comma, met at a party, fell in love, got married, and had a beautiful baby. It is the semicolon. Okay, it's the comma with the period or the dot over top of it. Okay, two jobs for the semicolon. First off, you'll see that term again, an independent clause. And what it does is it separates two independent clauses. Well, you've heard this before. We've done separation of two independent clauses when it comes to the comma and a conjunction. That would be the fanboys, F-A-N-B-O-Y-S, for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So those are our conjunctions. Instead of using the comma and the conjunction, you can use a semicolon and just get rid of the punctuation mark and the word. But again, it has to be independent, as the example shows you at the bottom. Jill wanted Mexican food, semicolon. Jason wanted pizza. Both sentences are fine by themselves, or both parts of the sentence are fine by themselves. You could have put a period, but because they're short and because they're kind of related to one another, semicolon would be a good use right there. Semicolon job number two. It's used to separate items in a list when the items contain commas. Now, you don't often have to use this. I will say that. But for instance, look at this sentence at the bottom there. I've lived in Tallahassee, Florida, semicolon, Tacoma, Washington, semicolon, and Raleigh, North Carolina. In that sentence, the semicolon is kind of acting like a super comma to separate the cities and the states from one another. If you replaced the semicolons with just regular commas, it would be a jumbled mess, and you kind of wouldn't know what went with what. So it just kind of helps clarify a little bit. And that's pretty much it for the notes. So what I'd like you to do in your notebook, underneath what you've written for your notes, is to write three sentences for me. One, I'd like you to write a sentence where there is a colon introducing a list. Number two, I'd like you to write a sentence where a colon is introducing an example. And number three, I'd like you to do semicolon job number one sentence where you have two independent clauses and you're separating that with a semicolon. You do not need to do a sentence for semicolon job number two, this one that's right here right now. Okay, that's pretty much it. Short video.